Grimoire Anthology Volume 2. The Maraid. Book 7, Chapter 10. The transmission was broadcasted on all Fallen frequencies. Lacking at the time the ability to crack Fallen encryptions, the Master of Crows could discern only that the Fallen houses were all talking to each other. That was a thing that had never happened before. Then the Techians looked earthward and saw the Fallen there becoming bolder. Tactics suggested they were planning a massive attack. We had no interplanetary arrays, no way to warn Earth. We thought we would be able to do nothing but watch. Then the wolves arrived from the Jovians. Their army was hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions strong, a dark wave that washed over the reef, rushing toward the Earth. As soon as we saw them, it was clear that if the wolves reached Earth, the city would fall. Seemingly oblivious to our existence, the bulk of the wolf fleet stopped to regroup at Ceres. The Queen's decision was this: attack the House of Wolves, thereby saving Earth but revealing the reef's presence to any and all enemies in the quadrant, or remain silent, preserving the reef's invisibility but allowing the city to perish. Her harbingers ripped into Ceres, destroying the asteroid and killing Varixus, Kell of Wolves, and more than half his house. The remaining wolves scattered, burrowing deep into the belt for cover. There, new claimants to the Kell ship quickly arose: Urxis, Wolf Baroness, Perixus, the Howling, and Skolus, the Rabid. Book 8, Chapter 1. After the scatter, the frontrunner for the Kell ship was Urxis, Wolf Baroness. While Skolus and Perixus scrambled over the Calyx servitors, Urxis secured the command of the Orbix servitors. Their history is still unclear, but the Orbix originate with either another fallen house, perhaps one that the wolves absorbed long ago, or a modification of the Calyx servitors. Either way, the Orbix servitors held permissions on Calyx servitors, which allowed Urxis to wreak havoc among her rivals' forces at the start of the Reef Wars. Book 8, Chapter 2. What Pixis' assault lacked in finesse it made up for in sheer numbers and desperation. Urxis' ketches were pinned against Eos, and the two sides engaged in the bloody bitter battle known as the Eos Clash, which left Urxis dead and both fleets nearly decimated. In the aftermath, the Crows salvaged one Orbix servitor, Mecha Orbix 11, believed to be the last of its programming. Though technically a victory for Skolus, the Eos Clash came at a terrible cost for him. He docked Pekis' arms and demoted him to Dreg as punishment for his recklessness. After the Eos Clash, Skolus changed his strategy. Book 8, Chapter 3. With Skolus and Perixus still fighting, no one expected either to attack the reef. So by the time Paladin Abrazaya arrived at Amethyst, it was too late. The Silent Fang, led by Drevis herself, had massacred almost everyone in the station, including Coven leader Pinar Venge. Paladin Zaya gave chase and followed the Fang to Iris, where, behind the glare of Iris' brightness, a wolf ketch lay in wait. But the ketch was no match for Zaya's smaller, faster ships, or her ferocity. When the Battle of Iris was over, however, it was not Drevis at Zaya's feet, it was Perixus. Greor, another of Skolus' loyal vassals, had attacked Perixus' ketch at the same time that Drevis had attacked Amethyst. He too had lured Perixus to Iris. Then the Silent Fang had used Iris' unusual brightness to disappear just as Zaya and Perixus arrived in the system. Book 8, Chapter 4. After a string of defeats at Amethyst, at Hygeia, arguably at Iris, Prince Uldren's Crows finally made headway against the Wolves' encryption. They quickly discovered a seemingly unimportant piece of information. The House of Wolves had incorrectly calculated the eccentricity of the asteroid Bamberger. So Paladin Imogen Rife chased Drevis, Wolf Baroness, directly into Bamberger's trajectory. Drevis' ketch was destroyed, and both she and her high servitor Calyx 4 were captured. It was the first decisive Reef victory since the scatter. But on her way back to Vesta with her captives, Paladin Rife was attacked at Pallas. Book 8, Chapter 5. Under Skola's vassal Persis, called Pallas Bane, the wolves amassed the largest wolf fleet that had been seen since the scatter. The queen could not use her harbingers against them. If she did, Imogen Rife and her fleet and all the people of Pallas would have been killed as well. For years the siege endured. At first, neither side dared to attack the other. On Pallas, Paladin Rife knew that Persis had the firepower to destroy the asteroid. Above Pallas, Persis held back, hoping to rescue Drevis and Calix IV and the other wolves that Paladin Rife had captured at the Battle of Bamberger's Wrath. The Queen sought to defuse the siege by sending Armada Paladins Abraziah and Kamala Rior into the Hildian asteroids, where Skolas was rumoured to be hiding. But with the help of his tactician Beltrick, the Veiled, Skolas thwarted them. The stalemate over Pallas was broken by, of all things, a Dreg. Ironically dubbed Wekis the Meek, the Dreg led dozens of followers in an unsanctioned attack on Pallas. They managed to blast a hole in the Athens hull, but were stopped soon after by Commander Hallam Fenn. Wexis and the surviving followers were imprisoned alongside those they had come to save. Book 8, Chapter 6. Wexis' attack may have been unsuccessful, but it inspired another deadlier assault. This time Persis, the bane of Pallas herself, led another strike, blasting through the same Athens hull breach that Wexis had weakened in his assault. Persis' strike team managed to free Calix IV, but Paladin Imogen Rife cut them off outside Drevis' cell. Persis might have escaped, but she refused to retreat without Drevis. Paladin Rife destroyed Calix IV to prevent the wolves from recovering it, and eventually the wolves were forced back, but not before Persis slew Paladin Rife with her own blade. Finally, Commander Hallam Fenn, Imogen Rife's protege, was able to establish a line of communication with the rest of the reef. Working with the Techians and the Crows, they created an enormous visual illusion of the Harbingers, making it seem as if the Queen had finally decided to cut her losses and destroy the asteroid. It worked. The false Harbingers so scared the Wolf fleet that they broke ranks. Then the combined forces of Commander Fenn, Paladin Leona Brill, and Paladin Kamala Rior slammed, capturing Persis, Pallas Bane, and driving the rest of the wolves off. Hallam Fenn brought Drevis to Vesta years after Imogen Rife had set out to do so. As a reward for his service, the Queen bequeathed him Rife's place among the 7 paladins. Book 8, Chapter 7. Finally, Beltrick the Veiled left the Hildians and massed his fleet at Fortuna to replenish his Ketch's ether from the organic compounds found on the asteroid's surface. His ships landed on Fortuna one at a time, the rest forming a defensive screen around its surface. He believed that Paladin Zaya would attack the screen and destroy her fleet against the shield wall. But Abraziah's fury over the Battle of False Tidings had chilled over the years into an icy, clever resolve. She separated her forces in two and engaged Beltrick's Veil with what he thought was her entire host. But in secret, Abra deployed her second fleet with a weapon the reef had been working on since Bamberger. Charybdis, a gravity weapon strong enough to knock asteroids off course. Charybdis caught asteroid Tenet in its beam and flung it into Fortuna, destroying both and severely damaging Beltrick's fleet. Beltrick was easily captured in the ensuing chaos and brought swiftly to the Queen. The fight became known as Fortuna Plummet, as are, on occasion, the remains of Fortuna and Tenet as well. After the Fortuna Plummet, one of Prince Aldrin's crows returned with a message from a fallen by the name of Varix, of the House of Judgment. Book 8, Chapter 8. In desperation, Skolas personally led an all-out assault on the military fortress of Cybele. Little did he know that the Queen knew of his plans, thanks to the word of Varix of the House of Judgment. No sooner had Skolas Ketch arrived at the asteroid than all 4 Armada Paladins, Abraziah, Kamala Rior, Leona Brill, and Hallam Fenn, caught him in a pincer movement. Calix XII, the High Servitor of Scrivix, the sharp-eyed, tried to escape, but Abraziah chased it down. Skolas' Cybele uprising had failed. He, Scrivix, Calix XII, and the rest of his leaders were cast into the Queen's prison. The reef wars were effectively over. Book 8, Chapter 9. Varix of the House of Judgment declared Queen Mara Sov the new Kell of Wolves, and advised those captured at Cybele to serve her. The first among these to pledge their loyalty to the Queen was one called Savix, who was given the honour of serving in the Queen's throne room, to the right of the Queen herself. See Book 9, Chapter 3, subsection The Queen Breakers. Book 8, Chapter 10. Though many wolves knelt to the Queen, some refused to admit the war was over. A group of wolves rallied under the banner of a new would-be Kell, Velenix, called the Ravenous. But before Velenix could strike at the reef struck at him. Lieutenant Petrovenge, a corsair who had served under Paladin Abraziah during the Hildian campaign, hunted down and captured Velenix.